Joining me now, Congressman Ro Khanna, Democrat of California. Congressman, thanks for being with us tonight. President Trump's trade policy took another beating this week. Most of his tariffs were blocked by a federal judge, only to be temporarily reinstated by federal appeals court. Still, here he is announcing new tariffs just last night in Pittsburgh.
We are going to be imposing a 25% increase. We're going to bring it from 25% to 50%, the tariffs on steel into the United States of America. So we're bringing it up from 25%. We're doubling it to 50%.
Congressman, this week, even Wall Street, which largely cheered President Trump's second term, was joining in making fun of his tendency to chicken out on his big tariff threats. What do you make of this new one?
Well, he's just creating chaos. Look, he campaigned against the Nippon Steel deal. He said he was not going to allow Japan to buy a U.S. steel company. Of course, President Biden blocked that. President Biden stood with the steel workers. Now Trump basically has greenlighted the Nippon Steel deal and has abandoned his campaign pledge. He is not holding them accountable to create those union jobs in Pennsylvania. The steel workers are concerned about it. And so he says, well, what can I throw out there? I'm going to put out this 50% tariff. What about the sale of the steel company to Japan, which President Biden opposed, and you opposed in the campaign trail and now are engaged in? So there's no consistency, and he's offering no funding to build these new steel plants here.
So basically, your view is that he's throwing out these tariffs to cover up for the fact that he's selling the steel plants, U.S. Steel, to Nippon. But staying with Wall Street's response to Trump's actions, analysts are warning that his big, beautiful bill could have a big, ugly impact on U.S. markets by adding trillions to the national debt, mostly to pay for his tax cuts. And it's reported that some in the finance world are worried the cost of the bill could disturb the U.S. bond market with possible global consequences. Of course, the White House says these warnings have been exaggerated. What do you think?
Robert, I'm glad you point this out because it is a completely reckless budget, and this is the last time any Republican should lecture us about debts or deficit. We have a $36 trillion debt. We have a $2 trillion yearly deficit. President Biden had a plan to bring down that deficit by about $1 trillion a year to move us back to having deficits not be more than 4% of GDP. The Republicans just passed a budget that would add $3.8 trillion over the next 10 years to the existing $2 trillion deficit we have, taking the deficit to GDP ratio to 8%, almost unprecedented, not in wartime. And this is why you see the bond market reacting. It's the most reckless economic policy of any modern administration.
Now, this week, Elon Musk stepped back from his political work, supposedly with a farewell event in the Oval Office. You've known Elon Musk a long time, and you even offered to help him trim the federal defense budget when he started his work with Doge. How would you describe Musk's stamp on the federal government and on America over the past 4 months?
It's been sadly destructive. I mean, he's hollowed out U.S. aid, that is our ability to help not just do humanitarian work, but to build alliances. He's decimated, along with Robert Kennedy, the National Institute of Health. They fired 7 out of 18 of the directors that do medical research. They're decimating the FDA that approves new drugs, hollowing out the VA that helps veterans, and not saving any money. I mean, the deficits, as Musk himself has acknowledged are exploding, much worse deficits than anything President Biden or President Obama ever had. They are exploding the deficit. And so, you know, I've said my fair share of things in politics. Some turn out to be right, some not. One of the things I said is he's going to get frustrated in 4 to 5 months, and I was spot on. And the reality is that there was no desire in Republicans to cut actually the defense budget or the fossil fuel subsidies or the actual waste. They've exploded the deficits and they've hurt people.
Now, pivoting to Trump's war on higher education, the administration is threatening to revoke visas held by Chinese nationals in California. That means as many as 50,000 students could be impacted. What would that mean for the state's university system, and how can it push back?
Well, the irony is that a president who wants to lower the trade deficit is actually taking a sledgehammer to one of our biggest exports, which is our universities. The international students actually pay often full tuition, and it is one of the things that helps us finance the education of Americans. And then by banning these international students, I mean, at Harvard, he's banned all international students right now. Guess who was an international student? Elon Musk. He was a foreign student. I mean, so he is taking a sledgehammer to all of the students who've come here and created jobs here and companies here. And with China, now what are they going to do? They're going to stay and create those jobs and companies in China. It's a destructive policy, and it's a xenophobic policy to single out all Chinese students.
That bears repeating. Elon Musk was a foreign student. But I'm out of time, but before I let you go, I have to ask you about the track and field championship going on this weekend in Clovis, California, that has attracted the unwanted attention of the president for allowing a transgender girl to participate. In response, Trump threatened to pull California's federal funding unless it bars transgender athletes from girls' sports. And his DOJ says it will investigate the state and the school district for possible sex discrimination by allowing this girl to participate. What would be the right way to handle this situation in your view?
First, Reverend, let me just say, you know what I resent? I resent that Donald Trump is trying to bring in the transgender issue to distract from policies that are giving tax breaks to billionaires, racking up deficits, taking away Medicare, Medicaid from ordinary people, taking away food stamps. And instead of talking about actually improving people's lives, he's picking on the trans community. In California, we have a system, and it's a pretty fair system. It says local athletic associations should make these decisions. They should balance inclusion along with fairness and safety. We have a California Scholastic Association that does that. You know what I'd like? I'd like a president of the United States to focus on real issues, on lowering the deficit, on helping people, on getting health care, and stop dividing this country with these cultural wars that Trump is doing.
Well, I think the fact is that he uses his cultural wars to evade and avoid real issues like the deficit at $36 trillion and would go up, another $2.5 trillion if this bill goes through.